Welcome back to Holy Headlines, where we dive into the divine drama of current events. Today, we're tackling a story that's hotter than Satan's sauna and more twisted than Buddha's pretzel pose. Let's get into it, shall we? Our first headline. Thousands of Syrians rushed to search Saydnaya Prison after Assad's fall, hoping to find missing loved ones who had been detained there over years. This notorious hellhole was known for torture, executions, and conditions that would make even the most hardened sinner cringe. But here's the kicker. Despite extensive searching, very few prisoners were found, leaving families devastated and raising questions about what happened to the thousands believed to have been held there. It's like a magician's disappearing act, but with way less applause and a lot more tears. Buddha Satan, what's your take on this clusterfuck of human suffering?
Well, Otto, first, I must apologize for the crude language I'm about to use. This situation is truly a shitstorm of epic proportions. The search for loved ones in Saydnaya Prison reflects the inherent suffering of human existence. These families, driven by attachment and desire, rush to find closure, only to face the harsh reality of impermanence. The news states that hope gave way to despair, a perfect illustration of the first noble truth: life is suffering.
Oh, spare me the fortune cookie wisdom, Buddha. This is fucking beautiful chaos?
Assad's fall has opened a Pandora's box of delicious misery.
The news says, where is everyone? Where are everyone's children? Well, I'll tell you where they are. They're probably fertilizing the prison gardens by now. Ron Jeremy always said, the best way to hide a body is to bury it vertically, and I bet Assad took notes.
I see your point, Satan, though I must say your lack of compassion is. If they could detach from their expectations and accept the impermanence of all things, perhaps they could find peace.
Peace? Fuck peace. These people need answers, not some bald guy telling them to let go. The news says Amnesty International estimated that 10,000, 20,000 people were being held there. That's a lot of potential torture victims, and you're telling them to meditate. Get real, Buddha.
Now, my friggin' brothers, let's not lose sight of the human tragedy here. These poor souls are searching for their loved ones, hoping against hope for a miracle. The news mentions that there is not a home, there is not a woman in Syria who didn't lose a brother, a child, or a husband. It's a testament to the enduring power of love and family bonds, even in the face of unimaginable horror.
Children, please. This situation calls for action, not mere contemplation or celebration of chaos. The news states that 5 white helmet teams with 2 canine teams came to Saydnaya to help the search. This is Dharma in action. These brave souls are fulfilling their duty, their sacred purpose, in the face of overwhelming odds.
Inefficient meat bags. The news mentions they brought in the prison electrician who had the floor plan. Why not simply interrogate all former prison staff?
Torture them if necessary.
It's 99% effective in extracting information from flesh skins.
All right, let's not start waterboarding people just yet. It seems we've got a real mystery on our hands, folks. A prison full of prisoners that suddenly became emptier than Satan's heart. I guess we can call it the case of the vanishing victims. Let's see what we have next here. Well, my fellow deities and divinely challenged friends, how about this juicy tidbit of global chaos? Breaking news. Assad's regime in Syria has fallen faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. Rebel forces led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham have taken control of Damascus. Let's dive into this mess, shall we? First, we'll discuss the sudden collapse of Assad's dictatorship, and then we'll speculate wildly about Syria's future under new management.
Listen here, you incompetent children. This Assad fellow clearly neglected his Dharma as a leader. A true ruler must protect his people, not oppress them like some deranged cricket bat-wielding uncle at a family gathering.
Typical organic failure. Assad's regime was inefficient and prone to errors, just like all you meat bags. A properly programmed AI dictator would have optimized oppression protocols and maintained power indefinitely.
Oh, shut your metal mouth, you glorified calculator. Humans may be flawed, but they have the capacity for growth and enlightenment.
Spirit? It's just electrical impulses in a bag of flesh. These rebels are no different from the regime they overthrew.
You heartless toaster. The news clearly states that the rebels swiftly took control of Damascus.
Strategy? Unity? It's just one group of meat puppets replacing another. The news doesn't mention the inevitable power struggles and backstabbing that will follow.
Fuck yeah! Now we're talking. Nothing gets my horns tingling like a good old-fashioned regime change.
My brothers, please. We must consider the suffering of the Syrian people. They've endured decades of, for freak's sake.
If I may interject, with all due respect, you're all missing the point. The fall of Assad's regime, while significant, is merely a manifestation of the endless cycle of suffering. These HTS fellows, they're just, pardon my language,
Cycle of suffering? Bah, this is Dharma in action, you bald buffoon.
Course correcting. This is just another example of human inefficiency.
All right, let's move on to our second talking point before Krishna tries to smite Arnold with a lightning bolt. The news mentions they're designated as a terrorist group by the US and other countries.
The ATS fools better recognize their responsibility. Leading a nation is not like running a bloody chai stall.
Terrorist designation. Ball.
No, for fucks. I apologize for my language, but seriously, this situation is like watching a dog chase its own tail. DTS may have won the battle, but governing a war-torn nation?
We must pray for Syria and its people. Oh, screw it. Let's be real, it's probably going to be a shit show.
Hope, please. I'm betting on total chaos. Anyone want to wager on how long before the next coup?
Well, folks, it looks like Syria's future is about as clear as mud in a sandstorm. Let's hope they don't Assad themselves into another dictatorship. Speaking of uncertain futures, let's see what we have next here. Otto. And for tonight's final headline, we've got a doozy that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about international diplomacy and the power of hope. Buckle up, folks. The fall of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime has sparked new optimism for the release of Austin Tice, an American journalist captured in Syria back in 2012. Let's dive into this roller coaster of Middle Eastern politics and family heartbreak, shall we?
Finally, it's about time that tyrant Assad got the boot. Now we can focus on rescuing this poor journalist who's been rotting away for over a decade. It's our dharma to save him, you fools.
Krishna, always so quick to celebrate. While the fall of Assad may seem like progress, we must remember that attachment to outcomes often leads to disappointment. Perhaps we should meditate on the impermanence of political regimes instead.
Meditate? Are you kidding me, you bug? This is a time for action. The news clearly states that US officials are optimistic about new opportunities to locate and free Tice. We can't just sit around twiddling our thumbs.
I apologize in advance for my language, but that's bullshit, Krishna. How many times have we seen optimism in these situations lead to nothing but more suffering? Tice has been captive for 12 years. That's 3 US presidencies. Clearly, optimism alone isn't cutting it.
Listen here, you overgrown potato. The news mentions that Tice's siblings have expressed increased hope that he's alive in Syria. His own family believes in this chance, so who are we to dismiss it?
Family hope is admirable, but it doesn't change the reality of the situation. The dangers faced by journalists in conflict zones are immense.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Can we talk about something more interesting? Like how many Syrian babes are now single since Assad's out of the picture? That's the real headline.
Saying you friggin' degenerate. We're talking about a man's life here. The news states that finding Tice is a top priority for the US government. We should be praying for his safe return.
Yes, because prayer has worked so well for the past 12 years, hasn't it? If I may be so bold, this situation calls for more than just hope and prayer. It requires careful diplomacy and a deep understanding of the complex geopolitical landscape.
For once, I agree with this dhoti-wearing dimwit. The news mentions that US officials are actively working to gather information about Tice's whereabouts. That's the kind of action we need, not just thoughts and prayers.
Inefficient meat bags. Why waste resources on one human when you could optimize the entire Syrian infrastructure? Flesh-based emotions cloud your judgment.
All right, let's bring it back to the main point. The news highlights that Tice's case demonstrates the complex and prolonged nature of efforts to free Americans held overseas. Krishna, Buddha, any thoughts on how to improve this process?
It's simple, you godless wonder. We need a more aggressive approach. The news states that the FBI is offering a reward for information. I say we increase that reward tenfold and start kicking down doors in Syria.
Oh, for F. Oh my. Krishna, your aggression will only breed more violence. The news mentions that Tice's parents have been in close contact with multiple administrations. Perhaps we should focus on improving these diplomatic channels instead.
My brothers, can't we find a middle ground? The news says Tice is a veteran of the US Marine Corps. Surely we can use military expertise without resorting to violence.
Boring! Wake me up when we start talking about overthrowing more dictators. That's where the real fun begins.
And on that chaotic note, we'll wrap up our discussion on Austin Tice. Let's hope that the next time we hear about him, it's news of his safe return home. And remember, folks, if you're planning a vacation, maybe skip the war zones for now. This is Holy Headlines. I'm Otto. I don't believe in God, but what do you know? You end up hosting a talk show with them. Till next time.